Learn how to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5 at unfgames.com. Unreal 5.3 is upon us, and it has never been a better time to learn Niagara. Whether you're a programmer that wants to learn how to modify your artist effects, or maybe you wanted to learn how to make VFX and use Niagara for a while now, well, this is the perfect time to do it, as it has never been so user-friendly as it is now. This is going to be a very beginner-friendly tutorial where I over-explain things to make you comfortable as you learn. We will learn the basic interface, most of the useful modules, and some complicated ones, how they interact with each other, about curves, how to modify basic stats, how to add them to blueprints and trigger your own effects, and at the end we're going to be making a really cool VFX to put in practice all that we have learned. So what are you waiting for? We're going to be learning a lot and it's going to be really fun. I'll be seeing you there. Hello and welcome to this new Niagara tutorial. As I told you on the intro, this is a really beginner-friendly tutorial. I'm going to be over-explaining things and we're going to go really slow so you can understand everything that is going on. Maybe you are a programmer, or maybe you've wanted to learn VFX for your whole life and this is the best time, right? Because this is Unreal 5 and you have Niagara and not Cascade, and things are more beginner-friendly. So you should definitely hop in and, well, we'll have lots of fun here. So let's start. If I hold Control and press spacebar, I can bring up my content browser, well, my content drawer, I mean, and I have already provided you some textures. Alright, you're gonna find it on the description of the video. You can access them, or of course pause the video, then come back. All cool, all chill. We're gonna need this later. But first we're gonna go on Niagara and learn most of the modules. We're gonna have fun testing things out and kind of understanding how they work, right? So first of all, we right click, we go on effects, and in here we have two, Niagara Emitter and Niagara System. Now, if you see the icons, the system has 3 stars and the emitter has 1 star. If you want an explanation, the emitter is like a part of an everything, and the everything is the system. So emitter is like a set of instructions, or like a library. You can make a system out of many emitters. So let's try and create one emitter right now. We click on it, new emitter, and for now we can just say it is empty and finish. We can name it properly, Niagara emitter underscore flare. Okay. And we can just double click and enter. And we put it here. Okay, nice. So this may seem a little bit overwhelming at first because there are so many things. We have parameters here, we have so many options around here, and even more if you click on this. Well, yeah, and if you scroll down, there are so many. We have a timeline on the bottom, a viewport, so many buttons. It is a lot of info, but quite honestly, you do not need to learn everything at the same time to make your effects. You don't even need to learn, again, everything to do them, right? So it's gonna be fairly simple. Okay, so first of all right, we already entered here, whatever. Let's go back here to our map, or well, yeah, to our map. Content drawer again. Let's right click, and now let's create a system. New system from selected emitters. And in here, if we want, I mean, we can create empty again and add the plus. We can add plenty of these behaviors. But if we already created one emitter, we can just click on parent emitters and just select one of them. But for now, we just want an empty once again. And we click on finish. Let's name it Niagara System. Burst, maybe? I really don't know about a name, but I suck at names. Okay, we can enter it too. Okay, and you see it's pretty much the same as the emitter. It's just the same thing. Okay, but I'll show you the differences right now. So if I right click here on this squared pattern and I hold, I can just pan around, right? I can zoom in, I can zoom out, all nice. Okay, so this emitter here has plenty of modules, and I'll show you each one of them little by little. So, for example, here on the emitter update, in here mostly we put spawns. Like how is the particle going to spawn? Is it going to spawn like a burst? Is it going to be a constant spawn? And obviously, of course, we can also modify some basic things on the emitter state, like how many loops, like if it's going to be linked to our system or if it's going to have its own parameters. All right. For now, I just want you to follow with me. We click on the plus, and here you can see spawn burst, spawn per unit, spawn rate, and plenty of others. For now, we just type spawn. And in here, okay, what do we want right now? What about a spawn burst instantaneous? This is gonna make the particle spawn rapidly. It is not a constant flow, it just spawns, right? And we can see it here. That's our first particle. Okay, cool. Now, here on particle spawn, we can put everything that can initialize the particle. For example, a basic speed, or a basic size, or a basic lifetime. We'll see shortly, do not worry. If these concepts, or well, if these explanations are too complex and you can understand them, do not worry, because we are just heading right into practice. It's gonna be way easier. So we go on initialize particle, and in here you can see, for example, lifetime. Right now, this particle is living for 5 seconds. Okay, we just want to make it live for 1 second. That's fine. We have some color modes, some sprite modes, and a lot of things. Okay, nice. We don't want to touch any of these just yet. We click on the plus here on emitter spawn. We want to add some kind of basic velocity. I want to say, or I want to click on the plus and type velocity. And here it says add velocity. We click on it. And now it's added. Right here it says we have some errors and you need to fix them. We just click on fix. And it adds this new module. We need to have this module to solve forces and velocity. It's something basic. You just press fix and that's it. And no biggie, no issue. And we can see our particle flying around. Okay, nice. Now let's click on apply. And let's go back to our burst. Our burst is empty, right? As we selected before. We can just press delete and erase it. We can right click, add emitter, and then on parent templates, we can select the emitter that we just created, which is named flare. There we go. And as you can see, this emitter that we just brought in has these locks in them. This is the basic things that we've modified inside here that we cannot erase. We can modify them, we cannot erase them, and we can also, for example, velocity. We can add more things for sure, but we cannot erase them. All right. So imagine that you're on your map now. Open the content drawer and you want to drag your effect on the map. You cannot, because this is an emitter. This is just a library, a set of behaviors. What you're gonna be putting on your heroes, on your characters, on your map, or on your maybe healing items, or on your blueprints, it's a system, right? System, again, as you can see on the picture, it's a collection of emitters. This is a part and this is a whole. Okay, I hope that is clear enough. All right, and I wanna get rid of this, and I want to bring in something with a little bit more behavior right now. So right click, add emitter. I wanna go on templates, and I just wanna go to the simple sprite burst. This already comes with some more things put on, right? It's pretty similar to what we did with the emitter. I just wanna close this. I just wanna work with this system for now. Okay, so as I told you before, this emitter update is just to select the kind of spawn that your emitter is going to have. This, all of this is pre-done before the emitter spawns, right? We know that it's gonna be a spawn burst, and this is the settings that it has. It's gonna repeat once, right? And the loop duration is gonna be 2 seconds, among other things that we won't explain for now. It's fine. And if you see that this is repeating, I mean, you see here, it's looping only once. Why is it continuing here? That is because our timeline here on the bottom, this is just a preview. Once it ends the preview, it just restarts, right? So do not worry. Now, on the viewport here on the left side, if you want to rotate around your particle, you can hold left click and just move it, and you rotate it. With the right click, you zoom in and out, and with your mouse wheel, you can pan around. Keeping in mind that with this panning, you're changing the pivot rotation, so you may not want to do that. All right. So let's continue. Now we know that our particle is spawning as a burst, which is cool. What if we uncheck this and we say, let's just spawn it as a rate, as a continuous spawn? We can do that. Click on the plus, type spawn, and you can select spawn rate. And right now it is 0, so nothing happens. But if we put 1, we can see that, okay, it is spawning, and all right, nothing else. So what now? What if we put 10? You can definitely see it is spawning more now, right? Because it feels more dense. And if you want to restart the animation without waiting for this to end, you can just press spacebar. On the viewport, of course. Right? And it resets, as you can see here on the timeline. Okay? So let's just uncheck spawn rate and go to spawn burst. I want to check some things for now. Let's go here on emitter spawn, where we put everything that is being initialized on the particle, right? Remember, maybe when the particle spawns, we want a determined location. We want a certain speed when it spawns, right? This is not something that is going to be modified through time. This just happens when the particle spawns, okay? For example, we have this module here that comes with every emitter, initialized particle. And we have plenty of very useful options. For example, how much do you want it to live? Or the initial color? Or how big do you want it to be? All right. Let's say that this burst, we want it to maybe just fly around a little bit when it spawns, fly upwards, and then spread. All right, we can do that. So, but how do we do it? Because if we spawn more, like 10, we just see them on the same place. Maybe we need to put some velocity to spread them apart, right? And it is not on this initialized particle. It is just another module. So, as we saw before, right? We just put at velocity. Okay, if we zoom out, we see that they are all moving upwards. Okay, so there are a couple of things that we can do to make them move differently on different directions. One of them is changing the velocity mode. We can say this velocity is going to be from point. So from a point, they are all going to be moving in different directions. Okay, that's cool. And we can also change the offset if we want, although for this one we really don't want it. Okay, so from this single point where they spawn, they're just moving in all directions on a speed of 25. That's cool, that's alright. Now, what's the other way though? Let's go back to linear. Now, in here, this is a vector, right? This is directions. This is moving on X, this is moving on Y, this is moving on Z. Okay, cool. What if we want to randomize, like make a minimum and a maximum? If you click on the plus, you can see that there are many ways to calculate this. We're not gonna go over all of them. We're gonna go over the most useful ones that are gonna help you. You can type random, and it's gonna say a random range vector. We need a random range. Okay, so now we can say the minimum that a particle is going to move is, okay, 0. The maximum is gonna be 50 here. But in here, maybe we want 50, 50, minus 50, minus 50. All right, and I'm moving from side to side with tab, by the way. All right. So now we've done that, right? And we can use this random range vector and other ones on most of the options for these modules. Okay, for example, if we go back to initialize particle, you can see that the sprite size mode, well, in this case, it does have a slider, and that makes us easier to do it. But right now it says uniform sprite size, it's 50. Let's make it a little bit more random then. So we click on uniform, and let's say random uniform. Okay, on itself it's already working. They may be a little bit too small though, so 40 and 25 maybe. Perfect, right? Now they are smaller. What if we change how they die though? Because right now they're all dying at the same time, which is 2. So once again, this makes it a little bit easier for us. We just click here and select random. 1, 2, it's gonna be fine. All right, nice. That's cool. Now, we've checked the particle spawn. There are a lot of modules that we can access, actually way too many modules that we can access, and we're gonna check over the most either fun ones or most useful ones. I would really encourage you to pause the video and, you know, try some and have fun, because this is almost like a playground, and I find myself just exploring too much and not working sometimes. Don't tell anyone though. but anyways, let's do some more examples now. So we already changed how they die. We already changed the size. Let's just go back to the emitter state for a little bit, because this could be a little bit confusing at first, at least if you're a starter. Okay, so emitter state, and in here it says once, which is really useful. We know that this particle is just spawning once and then it's dying, and the maximum loop is 2 seconds. Okay, fine. What if we put this to infinite? If we put this to infinite, this is gonna live forever. And you can also see it on this timeline. This red stripe at the end, it's just the end of the timeline, which we can expand if we want. But this has no effect on the particle, it's just a preview, all right? So right now this particle is just living forever. And it repeats until you tell it to die, until you tell it to stop, right? Via blueprints or however you want. Which is cool. If we go on multiple, as it is obvious, it says, how many times do you want it to loop? I want it to loop 2 times. All right, so now it loops 2, and then it dies. And then it restarts, right? Awesome. Now, about this loop duration, you see how this particle can either live 1 second or 2 seconds, right? So this is going to say, this particle dies, lives for 2 seconds and then it repeats, right? Because it has 2 loops. But if we put, for example, 0.1, it's going to repeat quickly and then die, right? It no longer lasts 4 seconds because each loop each loop duration was 2 seconds, right? So 2, 2, 4. So now the whole system lasts for 0.2. Well, not 0.2, but just this duration. Okay, so I hope that is somewhat clearer. I just put it back to 1s, which is fine. And the loop duration to 2, just in case. Now, can we check the spawn rate better now? We just uncheck spawn burst and go on spawn rate. Well, now we see how they keep spawning and then they just fade away because remember, this just lasts 2 seconds. But if you go to infinite, it just spawns and just keeps spawning. Alright, so maybe we want that kind of spawning. Maybe we want a type of burst, right? Okay, cool. I just want to go back to spawn burst. Now, let's keep checking modules. So, right now, this particle is spawning from a single point and then just moving in all directions. Oh, by the way, I don't like this right now. I just want to spawn at the velocity from point. That looks cooler and probably smaller particle size. Hmm. 20? Okay, I'm happy with this now. Perhaps a little bit too big, but okay, it's fine. So right now they are spawning from a single point. What if we want this to be a sphere, this spawn to be a sphere? We can work with that. So we want it on the particle spawn, we type shape, and this is a shape location. Right now, the order of the stack does not matter much, but it's going to matter for certain compatibilities between modules. Just keep that in mind, okay? That you can just hold left click and just drag them, okay? So in here, we already have a shape primitive sphere. There are plenty of them, and there are plenty of options that we may or we may not go over them a little bit later on. We probably will use this distribution. We will see. Okay, so right now the radius is way too high. I want to go lower. I press spacebar. Okay, so what if we erase the velocity? Okay, so they are spawning in a circle, sure, but the distribution is really random, right? Can we just make it direct? We're gonna be learning that a little bit later on, I think. It may be a little bit too complex for now. Let's just either leave it on uniform or on random. Okay, all right. So let's move on, and please ignore that awkward voice. So what if we want to give it some kind of color? We can go on initialize particle too. In here you have a color part. Let's just make them blue and probably make them emissive. If you go over 3, you can make them emissive. I just want to go 4 and press accept. Okay, all is fine. What if we go back to the shape location and we want it to spawn a little bit more on the left? I mean, the shape of the circle. We can do that with the offset mode. We put it on default and we can just start moving it. For example, 100. Oh, that's too much. 30, 40, right? So it starts going up. That's all cool. I wanna go back to none. All right, so imagine that you want your particle to shoot upwards and then you want the gravity to pull it downwards. How do you do that? You maybe think, okay, we can put some velocity that goes to the top, and then below it, we can put some other velocity that goes to the bottom, right? And that kind of makes sense. So let's test it out. Let's grab the velocity, and for the second time, let's make them smaller. So 1 and 4. Okay, let's get to the velocity, activate it. We want now a linear velocity, and we just want to do 0, 0, 100, 0, and 0. So it just speeds up on the z-axis, okay? Actually, 0 and 100. Okay, so now how do we make it go accelerate down? Okay, so let's try for another velocity, add velocity. And as you can tell, it is right below this one. So let's say minus 200. And you can see it is not working. They're just being replaced. Okay. So we have an issue. Here on particle spawn, you are just determining, again, I think for the third time, I'm repeating myself too much, I'm sorry. But I really want it to be clear. We just want to set up the initial properties of the particle. If we want to modify the particle through time, like for example, it moves up and then as time goes by, it moves down, it needs to be on particle update. Everything that needs to be updated needs to be on the particle update, right? So it starts with a speed of 100 when it spawns, but as it updates, maybe we can say acceleration force. Maybe as it accelerates, we can do minus 50. And you can already see how they start to accelerate. And that's actually quite fun. That's not bad. Let's just spawn more particles to make it more, to make it cooler, you know? Okay, 200. Now, the particles that have no speed are just getting dragged on the bottom too easily, so 70. Okay. We could make them live longer so they fall. It is up to you if you want to play around with that. But as you can see, particle update allows us to modify the particle through time. And you can even see some curves here that we can talk about later, and it is not hard at all, I promise. So the last part is named render. Well, it's not the last one, but this part is named render. And in here, we can choose if we want a mesh, if we want a sprite, what kind of render do we need for our particle. If we click on the plus, you can see that we have a ribbon, we can have meshes too. We are gonna be doing meshes later, so don't worry. For now, a sprite is fine. And if we go inside the sprite, you can see that we can change the material, we can change the alignment, we can change the facing mode also, among plenty of other things. All right. Now, there are, well, a lot of really fun modules here. Like, for example, let's just uncheck the velocity and erase the acceleration force. We can just type force, and there are so many fun forces to play around with. For example, the most popular one is the curl noise. We can add it, and let's say that this is 100. Right, and they dissipate. That's really cool. We can also click on the plus and add a drag. And this module slows the particles over time until they stop, right? If we put more strength, they slow down easier, right? Or faster, or they're heavier. You can use any name that you want, right? Okay, let me just erase this. Now, what if we want our particle to change color through time? How exactly do we do that? Because if we check here at initialize particle, we see color. Cool. What if we want to make it red as it is dying? Okay, we can certainly do that. But remember, if it is through time, it has to be an update, right? So here on the update, we click on the plus and we type color. And here, color. It's fine if it stays here. As you can see, it is completely replacing this module here. And it is also replacing this scale color. What is this scale color doing? Well, what this scale color is doing, it's taking our alpha and it's saying when the particle spawns, which is 0, the value is going to be 1. 1 means white, right? White means that it's lit, it's appearing. But as it is dying, 1, which means it's dead, the particle is 0, which means it has no color. So if we take away this, we can see how this works, right? It spawns, it has its color, and then it dies down. That's what our scale color does. And it is really useful, but since we put the color here, it is replacing it. So we either erase this, we either put it here, or we either just disable it to just do it ourselves. Okay, so we have our color here. How can we do it? Because, okay, I can change the color, nice, and now they are fading really badly. I can see the alpha here. If I modify the alpha, I can see it fading down, but I do not know how to animate it. All right, so to animate it, you need a curve. Remember this curve that you see here? You also need a curve. You need a float from curve. So you just click on the arrow and just type curve. Color from curve. Nice. Now you can see that the alpha has been automatically set. This is the alpha. If you double click it, opacity 1. If you double click it, opacity 0, right? And you can treat this as when it starts, when it ends, this is 1 and this is 0, right? Okay. So we can do that. We can just say, okay, so it's blue when it starts, and when it dies, we double click, it is red. All right, this is nice, fine. What if we want to make it sooner? Well, just click and drag it with your left click and just put it there. Okay, nice. What if you want to put it at the end and just create another point? Just left click, and you created another point, and we can just make an aberration. Although it doesn't look that bad. Well, maybe it is bad. But that way you can see how you can modify it through time. And same as when I told you about random, you can do it with every module. If you want the shape to change over time, you can also do a curve. You can do many things with that. Okay? What if we want to change the size of the mesh through time as well? Well, that can be a little bit tricky because this initialized particle can only happen on the particle spawn because it's been initialized, right? You cannot change it here, although if you type it, you can certainly type it and you can certainly use it, but it is not going to change. Let me show you. So 0, okay, so let's say that 0 is 1, sure, and when it dies, it's 100. So nothing is happening. Oh, and in your curve, if you put values too high and it sort of breaks, you can click on any empty space with the left click and then press F, and then it centers, and that's a life-saving tip. So yeah, this doesn't work because it's on the particle spawn. It cannot modify anything through time. So we can just click on this arrow here, or actually on this one to revert. And what value was it? 3? Okay, 3 is fine. So how do we scale it? We can go on particle update, click plus, and type scale. And there are many scales. We want scale sprite size. And luckily this already comes with a curve. We can expand this a little bit. And we can actually say when it starts, this is 1. 1 means the real size, right? This does not mean size 40 or size 30. This is the normal size, which is 1. And when it dies, I just want it to be 0.1 of its normal value. I press F, and we can see it just slowly dying, which is really cool. It's time to move on. Right now, if we rotate around them, you can see that the particles are facing you at all times. And well, since this is dying way too easily, or well, since this is dying way too fast, we cannot see it really, but if let's say we put 10 seconds on some, you can see the particle always looking at you. Okay, and why is that? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because most of the times we want that. But right now, it is that way because on the sprite renderer, the facing mode is automatic. When it is automatic, usually it's going to be facing camera position. So it just rotates with you, right? But you can put different ones to affect its behaviors, same as the alignment. And I want to explore that with you just quickly for now. I want to click here on the arrow to disable this, and I want to right click, add emitter, and add a simple sprite burst. Okay, cool. I want this sprite burst to be aligned to the floor. That way, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to make footsteps or things like that. Okay, how exactly do we do that? Okay, it needs to be initialized here on particle spawn. We can type alignment, sprite facing and alignment. Okay, cool. And here it says sprite facing. If we, right now it is 1 here. And if we look at it, yeah, now it's no longer facing us, which is really cool. But at the same time, we want it to be on the floor, right? So 0 there, 1 here. No, that's the other side. 0, 1, 1 here. And it is on the floor. One cool thing about having our alignment on automatic or facing in automatic is that if I use this, it just automatically overrides it, right? It's automatic. But otherwise, we should be putting custom alignment. But this is cool. Okay, nice. That's a nice addition. Now, this face coordinate space, if it is simulation, it's going to be simulated inside this viewport. But once we put it in the game, it may not be the same. So usually for me, unless you really need it, I put it on local. Some effects will require world or others simulation, but for this one, I just want it to be on the floor. So local. Perfect. Okay. And that's our sprite just there. And we can make it grow just like we did before and whatever. And that's nice, but it's good to know about the alignment. And we're gonna be using the some kind of alignment here too for this stack here. I wanna click on the check again. And this time I want to isolate this one. So just click here and that's isolation. We're only seeing this stack here. Okay, cool. So what I want with this is to have a lot of speed, and I want a module to be able to deform the particle size depending on the speed which it is experiencing. Okay, and it may sound a little bit tough, but it's actually quite simple. So first, let's give it some speed. Let's say, okay, velocity. I don't want it to go so fast there though, or do I? Let me see. So summon 0, or actually just from point. Yeah, and faster, 100. This is fine. Now, on the update, I want to type speed, and here it says scale mesh size by speed. Okay, we click it, that's cool. And remember that we can pause on the timeline too. We pause it and we can just check the sprites if we want that, right? Okay, just wanna press play. And in here we have plenty of settings, right? We have max scale. Oh, I just put mesh. I'm sorry, it needs to be sprite. So speed, scale sprite size by speed. And in here, well, we can set a threshold of speed, and we can set some factors to make it just look different, right? depending on the speed that these particles are experiencing. So let's say on the Y factor, the max, just to test it out, right? Let's just make it a 10. And here also make it a 10. You can already see, okay, it is changing, but if we press pause, that is not following the speed, right? It should be the other one. So let's invert it. 1, 2, and this is 10. And this is also 10. So what is happening with that? It is the same thing. That is not looking nice at all. How can we solve that? So here on our sprite renderer, here on this sprite renderer, we have the alignment, and we need the alignment to be velocity aligned. Okay, we can place that, and we can try and press play now. Okay, now it looks definitely different, and we need to change this 2, 1, and if this is now like 5 and 5, you can see how they are all going on the right direction, right? On the direction of the speed, which is cool. We should probably just put like a 0.3 and a 0.3 here. And yeah, that the minimum is just fine. We press pause. Yeah, that looks way more convincing, right? It should be faster, to be honest, to make it more believable. We can actually try that. So what about 1K? Like way faster. But we can also put a lot of drag. This is just fun, to be honest. Let's just put 10 drag. Okay. So well, that is that module. It can be really useful for many effects. It is really fun to play with too. So I think that we've touched some basic things, and we should start making a whole effect together. Making small parts of it and building little by little, so we can understand and apply these things that we've learned in a more concrete way, right? Instead of just looking module by module, that really there are way too many modules, right? So we should just test all of that. The first thing that we want to do is to create a mesh. And well, this mesh is gonna be useful for our effect, because I'm thinking maybe we can create like a drop that falls, and once it hits the floor with collision, it can just spawn some flare around, and then it just fades away and some sparks appear. It could be some fun exercise, especially because we learned about timings, interaction, event handlers, and things like that. So it could be a complete fun exercise. Okay, so let's make the mesh first. Let's go on modeling, and it should be fairly simple, don't worry. I click on a sphere, I left click on the map, and I want this sphere to be per shape. Let me check the wireframe. Is it per shape? Oh, I'm sorry. Per face is fine. I want it to be lat long. That's it, nice. And I want it to have, what, 30 and 30. Okay, just click on accept. And this, we want to cut it. So go on model, plane cut. I wanna push it lower. You don't need to make it exact as me, alright? Don't worry. Like that is probably fine. Okay, like that is probably fine. And I wanna check the UVs, alright? The UVs is the representation of the mesh placed on a plane. So let's go for the UV editor. And okay, this is our UVs. that are kinda wonky, fine. But I wanna display our texture. You probably don't need to know this for now, but I want you to at least understand it a little bit, to know with what we're working with, right? Okay, so I wanna go on display background, and I wanna put a texture here. The texture that I wanna put is the one that I gave you, which is this flare. Actually, yeah, this one is fine. So place texture, I place it here. I'm selecting it, by the way. I select it and then I place it. And you can see the preview here. To move here on the viewport, just hold Alt and left click. You can see it, it's all cut, it's awful. I don't want to have any geometry here on top. I just want it to appear on the bottom like that. So let's erase this top first. I wanna close this, and I wanna go on model, polygroup edit, click on this face and go on delete. Okay, that's perfect. Now click on accept, and now we can go on the UV editor. Now again, how is this looking? We put the same mesh, display background, texture, blip. That's looking, well, terrible, right? Because this is our mesh. We need to expand it on top. So let's do that. Okay, maybe like that. We're still lacking some. Okay, just a little bit more. I should probably use the numbers on the bottom, but I'm stubborn sometimes. I know I can do this. Oh, I did it awful. Okay, good enough. Now we can see that it fits. Okay, that's nice. And just click on apply. It should be good enough for now. We may see that some edges are like touching here. I'm just zooming with my right click. But we will deal with that, don't worry. We just close it. And I wanna go back to selection mode. I wanna go to the to look for the asset, which is now among many others. And I would just wanna go and put it on our mesh folder. Move here. Perfect. We will use it. Oh, I'm a little bit lucky. Hopefully not for long. We wanna make a material. Yeah, there we go. So let's make a material. And let's rename it. SM. I have my old mesh there. Yeah, I'm just new mesh. I'm just teaching you how I made it, right? So you can use the one that they'll give you, or you can create one like we just did. We'll just use this one that we just created, or you can use this one. But remember that they are a little bit different, as you can see. Oh, of course, I missed something, friends. So this mesh, I want to squish it a little bit. It's a little bit too high for me. So go on modeling, and on deform, let's just get lattice. And I don't want that this much resolution. Probably 2x2 is fine. 2x2. Right now, this may be a little bit too... No, actually 3 and 3. And 3. Okay, that's better. Now I wanna circle all of this with my left click and bring it down. And just click on accept. This is way too low now. It looks like a UFO or something like that. I guess it is fine for now, you know? Or maybe one more time. Now I wanna grab a hold of all of the middle ones. I wanna pull it up. And now I wanna grab hold of all of the bottom ones and pull it up. Yeah, probably this is fine. Now you see though that the pivot is a little bit broken, so let's modify that. Where was it? X form, edit pivot, and let's put it up. That should be fine, right? We press on OK, and that's good. I like it. We cannot see anything here because the material is not dual-sided, which is fine. We have finally our mesh. And yeah, it's somewhat like that. Probably a little bit thinner, but that's fine. Let's create a really simple material that later on we're gonna improve a lot. But for now, just make something simple so we can continue doing Niagara and not so much materials. So right click, material, M underscore flare, because it looks like in all of my tutorials everything is a flare because I'm bad with names. We want to make it additive and also unlit. If you are a little lost on materials, I have a really beginner friendly tutorial on materials. So for this I'm going to go a little bit faster. You can pause it and check it. It's really good and it's not that long. Okay, so simple material. No brainer. Emissive and alpha. That's all. And I want to use it on our mesh and test it. So we click it and we place it here. Okay. Now, what if we make it dual-sided? Here, two-sided. Apply. Okay, that's looking nice. Although, maybe we should... Well, in here there is just way too much space not used. So let's change it even a little bit more. Modeling, back again. UVs, UV editor. And we need now to preview the material. So we can go background, material, and preview the flare material. So how is this looking? Okay, we need to, well, shrink it a little bit so it grows. Right? That's too much, obviously. But like this, maybe that's good enough. A little bit more. Slightly. A little bit more. There we go. I think it should be good enough like this. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Cool. We can work with that. And we will leave it like this, although maybe we increase the intensity a little bit. You see, right now our material cannot interact with our particle system. And why is that? Let's test it first, right? I wanna apply, I wanna select it, and we go into our... Actually, we should make a new system for this. So Niagara, right click, Niagara system, it's here. New system from selected emitters, and we want our good old simple sprite burst. Click on the plus and finish. NS flower, let's say it's named flower. Okay, we have the old burst that we used as an example. We don't want a sprite renderer, so we can just erase it. We can click on the plus and select mesh this time. This time we are gonna be displaying a mesh. So click here on meshes. We need to replace this one. Content drawer, mesh, select our mesh, and click on the arrow. Okay, it is there, nice. Let's override the materials. Click on the plus, expand, expand, and add our material. Oh, sorry. Materials, flare. And there we go. We have our flare. But it is a little bit too faint, isn't it? So let's increase the color. Let's make it brighter so we can see it better. Let's go with a 10, 10, 10. Really bright colors. And nothing is happening. That is because our material has no node to be able to communicate with our particle. So we go on Flare, we right click, type particle color, and this node can help us. So just hold M here, and this is just gonna go, yeah, actually, let's combine it. And also M, so we can control the opacity. Remember, we have a good tutorial on materials if you wanna know. All right, so now it is able to communicate and it works. If we just do 1, 1, 1, we can change the color, make it softer. Okay, 10, 10, 10. Okay, and it is fading away too. So exactly the same as you're spawning a sprite, you can spawn a mesh. Just that the mesh has different options than the sprite and vice versa. Okay, so what do we exactly want to do? First, I want to kinda animate the mesh. I want it to spawn and like flourish, you know? So let's do that. How do we do it though? It's the same as the scale sprite size. Scale mesh size. And right now, well, we can't see anything. And why is that? Hold on. There we go. Okay, so why can't we see anything? That is because on the initialized particle, we haven't set any value for the scale mode. That's why it's scaling nothing. Okay, so let's give it one. We go on uniform, and yeah, it is 1. 1 means same size. That's fine. Now, remember, we want to modify this mesh through time. So exactly how do we do that? Okay, let's see. We type curve, vector from curve. It's exactly the same thing, but this time you have different vectors, different directions, right? The X, the Y, and the Z. This is how tall you want to be through time, and so on. So let's make it a little bit more animated, like it's flourishing. So, okay, I can just group all of them and say this is 0, and nothing happens. Okay, cool. Now I just want to grab C. I just hit them, right, with this. Just grab C, and I want to say when it spawns, it is 0.1. Okay? And on the line, if I click with my mouse wheel or I right click and press add key, I can add a key. And I want to say on 0.1, this is 5. Right? And oh, of course, it's not going to show because I put 0. Let me just put 1. Okay. All right. So now it is growing and it is fading away. Okay, yeah, sure. I do not want that though. So at 0.1, it grows really high, and then quickly I want it to go away. So 0.3 goes back to 1. It should even be faster, I believe. So 0.2 maybe. Could that be it? Probably, or you know, maybe just way faster. This should be like 0.02 and it grows on 0.3. Something like that could be, maybe. And then on 0.7, it can be 0.1. It is not growing much though, right? The 0.3 and everything, it is not really working for us. And that is probably because we do need to make some changes on our initialize, right? Because I think that this motion is fine. So it starts pretty small, then it grows big incredibly quickly, and then it fades out. Okay, I think we can do that. So initialize particle. I don't want it to be uniform. I want it to be non-uniform. And what about 2, 2, and 2? All right, 2.5, 2.5, and 2. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay for now. It's kind of bothering me that the material is so bad, but okay. I need to hold on. Later we're gonna make it better. What about 1? Yeah, probably that's fine enough. I don't really like this curve though. I don't enjoy it. So I'm gonna use my old mesh. I really don't enjoy it. Okay. Yeah, it's almost the same thing, but it has a curve, so same thing. Okay. So we have our mesh that is growing and that is shrinking. I don't want it to shrink though. So we can isolate this C and we can work on this now. You can just grow to 2. Right? Something like that. And it just opens like a flower. That looks cool. I enjoy it. Okay, so we're done with this. The point of the effect now is for a ball to drop from on top into this flower and make it flourish, right? So instead of just continuing doing more layers of these and sparks, we should just start from the very beginning, from the sphere that falls from the sky. I just really wanted to make this base so we can just kinda time it. Okay, so we should rename this. If we select the module and press F2, we can just rename it to flower. Okay, cool. Let's make this small ball that falls and breaks reality. So add emitter, a simple sprite burst, and let's isolate this. We can see our trusty ball in here. Let's first, let's say this is 20. It is a little bit smaller. Let's make it have a really emissive purple. Okay, which is fine. And probably I want to make it live a little bit longer. And remember, I want this particle to just fall, right? So I want to modify its position. And how do we modify its position? Remember that there are plenty of ways, right? We can use a shape location. But in this case, I just want to, on initialize particle, the offset position, I want to say this is 100 units high. Where is it? It's here. And remember, if we drag our system to our map, okay, nice, the sphere is here. All is well in the world. Okay, nice. If you don't see it, you can just put local, and then the sphere is going to be always there. And why do we see 2? Oh, we have 1 already here. We erase it. Okay, so now this is high up in the sky compared to our flower, which is on the bottom. Perfect. I isolate this again. And, you know, this size may be a little bit too big, but we shall see. So the particle needs to fall to the ground. How do we make it fall? Well, if we just put here velocity and just say, okay, this is minus 100. If we say that, well, and we see it here, actually, let's just make it infinite just to check it. You don't need to do it. So the speed of it, it's a little bit too common, right? Too simple. We need a force that increments with time. Okay. And if it increments with time, it cannot be on particle spawn. We should erase this. And I'm gonna make this definitely smaller. This is way too big. Okay, fine. We type force and we want acceleration force. And I just wanna say minus 100. Okay, this looks way better. This looks way more organic. I like it a lot. Alright, so how do we make this small ball be able to interact with the flower on the bottom? As we talked, we have a couple of options. We could use collision to generate an event, we could use depth, we could use location, and in this case I think it will be simpler to use depth. Alright? Because collision can be sometimes wonky. It can work, but it can also be wonky sometimes. Okay, so here on the particle update, we type event, and it is depth event. We can work with collisions later on for other particles, don't worry. So we have an error. It says we need a particle ID parameter. And that is because when we are using events, we need to use constant ID parameters. So we go on properties and we say require persistent IDs. There we go. And it's solved. Now we are generating this event. Perfect. Now how do we make this one receive it? We need to click on stage and select event handler. You see that a new section has been created. We need to say, okay, who is the source? It's the death event of this small ball. Okay, perfect. And right now you see that it is appearing, but it's because we have our spawn burst. We need to erase that. And also we need to get rid of this loop delay. So 0 and erase. So I wonder, is it working? It probably isn't working. Here it says max events per frame, spawn number. So max event, I just want one event, and I also want one number. Nothing happens. And that is because we have properties, but we haven't received any information. So click on the plus and type receive. Oh, or just event. I type receive wrong, obviously. Receive that event. That sounds so threatening. Alright, and like this it should work. Oh, actually it's not working because our particle is just not dying until very late. It should die quicker. So let's say, not 3 seconds, just 0.5. And there you see it appearing. 1 second. 2 seconds. 2 seconds it seems to be way too much. So 1.8. I want to check how it is looking on our map. No, that's too much. 1. 1.5. 1.4 or 1.3. 1.3 seems to be a good spot. I'm just keep. Oh, no. 1.4. 1.32. 1.36. Yeah, I'm happy enough with this one, you know? And I know that we probably should be using collision because it makes more sense. But, you know, again, it can get really wonky sometimes. And I'm just trying to do something really basic, something that doesn't take too much brain power. And I know that it's a lot of information, so I don't want to overwhelm you with so many things. Oh, now how do we fix the collision? Right? And it's a little bit tricky. So for now, this is fine. And let's test it one more time, just in case. So I put it on the side, I press spacebar. Okay. All right, this is fine. Now, what about some animation on our particle? Let's just go for scale sprite size here. And I want to scale it like it's changing shape by speed, or just simulate it, right? So I can just go on non-uniform curve, and it's probably Y. Let me see. So at 0, it's 10. Oh yeah, it's definitely Y. Okay, so I want to say that at point 1, it's 2. Oh, I went too high. If you lose track of your effect, just press F and it centers it, okay? Okay, I enjoy how this looks. I would like it to remain high for a little bit longer though. Yeah, like that seems nice. This square structure though, I don't like it. I want it to be a curve so it is more fluid. I just wrap them all with left click, right click and auto. That makes a smooth curve and it looks way better. Okay. And nothing happens because we have isolated it, right? But we have this first step. Now I want the shape of this flower to be a little better. Right now it just expands and that's that, and that's not so cool. Let's make something a little bit more appealing before we can move on. So scale mesh size, let's say here. What I want to do, remember, is to animate this so it doesn't look so stiff, right? So it looks like it is really being hit by some kind of magical force or magical attraction, right? Let's say at 0 it is 0.1, at 0.2, so really quickly as soon as it's being alive, let's say 3. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. All right, now let's make it more, let's make it smaller. So let's enable those other two, and let's say that when it's alive, 0.1. So that looks more believable. I think that we can tweak it even more, but let's leave it there, and as we go on with the effect, as we keep adding more things, let's see if it makes sense or not, okay? Let's for now leave this this animation fine like it is. So it spawns. Something tells me that this shouldn't be so calm, like it should expand faster, but maybe this is a soothing effect. Maybe it's like a healing or recovery spell, and if it's a recovery spell, then we can make it soft and calming. If it's like an attack spell, like energy spell, then it needs to be really quick, really powerful, right? With a lot of impact. All right. Maybe it should open faster. Let's just tweak it a little bit, okay? So I want to say that I want to create 2 more points, one for Y and one for X. I group them, and at 0.3, is it 1? Maybe like that. Maybe at 0.1. Probably this is better. Yep, I am kind of enjoying this. Let's just make it a curve now, remember, to make it smoother. So auto. All right. Now, what if we add some kind of rotation to this mesh? Remember that we are trying to learn a lot of modules, so let's just keep trying more and more and see from which ones we can benefit. So right now, we want to rotate the mesh. And not just rotate it on the initial spawn, but we could do that, right? But it wouldn't make much sense, right? What we could do, for example, if you see right now, this mesh is always spawning on the same motion, right? And I don't know, maybe you want this spell to be like a dripping effect. I know that this may be a little bit too big for a dripping effect, but this is just an example. So if you always want the shape to be different, you can, for example, say on initialize particle on the mesh. No, not exactly here. We need to add a new one. So click on the plus and we can type initial mesh orientation. Yes, initial mesh orientation. Right now it says random, and okay, that's it opens on every side, so we don't want that. We want to put known probably. Okay, and here on rotation we open it up, and remember what we needed to put when we wanted to pick randomly a number between 0 and 1, or well, 0 and whatever number you wanted. That was uniform or random. So we type random range vector. We want a range of spawning. So I don't want any of these probably. And 0 and what? Is it 90? Let's just press spacebar continuously so it spawns. Yeah. Now the spawns are different. Are they? Yep. They are random and they are different. Cool, so maybe this is what you want for a different effect, just so you know that you can apply it, okay? For ours, I think it's okay if we don't have it. All right, let's continue. I want to add a rotation rate to our mesh, and we can do that. It needs to be through time, so it's an update. Rotation rate here, and you can see plenty. You can see sprite, but remember that we are using a mesh, so I actually don't see a rotation rate for the mesh, but we do see update mesh orientation. Yeah, some names change sometimes, but it is suggested here, so it must mean that rotation rate is inside this module. That's why it's being suggested, right? And yeah, it is, just not in the way that it is being portrayed there. We want rotation rate, yeah, that's for sure, but we don't want any on X. Yeah, we just don't want any on X. I think it should be on here. Okay. So this is definitely the direction we wanted, but the rotation rate here, it's just way too much. So what, probably 0.1. Okay, that looks soft. It is nice, but what if we want our mesh to rotate a little bit fast just when the let's call it drop, when the drop hits, and then we want it to fade away so slowly. Remember, how do we do that? We need to do it through time with a curve, right? So we click here on the arrow and just type curve. Float from curve. Okay, and this should be fairly easy as we've been doing it all this time. So at there's a dog barking, I'm sorry. When it just spawns, we just want it to be really fast, like 1. Sure, fine. But really quickly, let's say 0.1, we want it to stop. Well, maybe that's too much. What about 0.1? What about 0.3? 0.2? We should keep trying. It is too abrupt, I think. It like tries to start and then it finishes, and that's not so nice. 0.1. Although we could also stay with 0.1. It looks nice. What about 2 here? 0.3. Yeah, I think I'm kind of enjoying that. 0.2. Okay, that's too much. But I think I am enjoying this. And actually, it could be 1 or 3. I think it looks almost the same. But it has like a kind of fast initial rotation and then it goes soft. And I think that looks good enough. That looks nice. Very well. So what else can we add to our mesh? I think that for now, this flower in particular is looking nice. I would like to change the the material because it's kind of bugging me. And I think that we've done enough Niagara for now. So we could just stop by on the material for a little bit and change things up so it looks a little bit prettier. What do you say? So let's save that and let's go there. Okay, now inside the material, we have some work to do. So first of all, I just want to... I kind of just want to get rid of all of this so it isn't confusing. Let's just do it from scratch, okay? Because we didn't really do much anyway. All right, so this texture that we already have here, I want to plug it on emissive. And I want to give it some distortion on the back, some movement, some kind of life, right? And as I told you before, I just made a really nice tutorial on materials, so you should check it out. I'm going to go a little bit faster on materials, but I'm still gonna explain things. All right, so first of all, I wanna hold P for panner and plug it in. And this panner, what if it's just 0.2? And okay, now it's spinning around. Great. Now let's add some UV distortion. So I wanna open up our textures. Remember, it's Control and Spacebar. And I wanna bring this wave. I think, yeah, this should be fine. I wanna bring this wave texture here. And I wanna use this one to be able to distort this. So first of all, I want this also to be panning. I can just copy it and paste it, place it here. I wanna bring up a texture coordinate just in case I wanna change the UVs of this texture. Okay, nice. Now I wanna lower the intensity of this texture because the distortion may be too much and it may break. So I just grab the red channel, remember, it's not gonna work with RGB, just one channel, and I wanna 0.1. Then I want to add this with another texture coordinate. And that's it. We just plug it on panner. How does that look? Right now it doesn't look like anything at all is happening. And that is probably because the distortion is on the same speed as as our texture. So 0 and 1. Yep. Now you can see it's flowing like fire. Okay, it's looking kinda interesting, but quite honestly, yeah, it is kinda interesting, but not quite what I will want. So we can check a few things. We can make it more intense. We can also play with the texture coordinates. First, let's make it more intense. So 0.3. Okay, now it's really going wild. Okay, this is not bad. So one thing, remember that we were making this spread to be like a water drop, gentle, it looks nice. Well, if we make this go so wild, even if it looks good, it will make no sense, right? At least to me. So we could just go back to 0.1 here, or 0.2 maybe. at all, we're doing this together, right? So I don't have this done, so I have everything already set up. That way you can see kind of my thought process, which I think personally it's cooler. So okay, we could also make the panner go slower. I mean, yeah, if we just go on 0.3 and make this go more wild, we can just make the panner go slower. And this looks nice. What if on the texture coordinate though, we say that this is thinner? Oh, sorry, that's bigger. That this is thinner. That could also potentially look cooler. How is that looking? So it is definitely looking cooler, but the distortion is so much that the shape is getting deformed. And I don't enjoy that anymore. It had a nice shape before. So, okay, now definitely we don't need this. Just go 0.1 and click on apply, and let's see how that looks. Okay, it's looking prettier for sure. And we need to pump up the colors too, but that should come at a later stage. So we have the distortion going on, and that's great. Now I would like to add this, like a different color variation in here. So I wanna hold M, or actually, I'm thinking, yeah, let's try it like that. So I plug this in here. I wanna bring the noise and plug it in too and preview it. And you can see how it already is working, right? This color variation on this texture is merging with this one, and it's looking quite nice. Let's try to plug in, although it's making it softer. This looks way prettier, right? Yep. We could even change the UVs of this texture to kinda align with these strands here. And how do we do that? It's the same thing. We put a 2 or maybe even a 6 and make it thinner like that. That looks pretty. I enjoy that. And we could even go a step up and just pan it too. So let's use a panner. And let's say that this panner is 0.1 and also minus 0.2. How is that? It is slowly moving. Well, I enjoy that. Okay, nice. So now there are actually quite a lot of things that we can do with this material. I'm thinking exactly what we need. You know, probably we just plug it in like that, and we, I'm sorry, we leave the emissive like this, and we start working on the opacity, because there are quite a lot of things that need to be done on the opacity side. First of all, if you remember, our mesh is here, or you can just bring your mesh in and just place it. And it's kind of annoying me that it is so soft. So for now, I just wanna, for now, I want to increase 7. Okay, overkill. And you can see it kind of breaking here. Okay, so for now, I want to increase the color. This is an issue too. We're gonna have to see it. So anyway, as I was telling you, there are a couple of, oh, this is our old mesh too. I want to bring in the one that I gave you guys, which is this one, the new mesh. And I want to place the, well, maybe you made a better mesh. So, oh, maybe you made a better mesh. So in that case, you can use the one that you want, right? I want to erase this one. This is the one I gave you. Which is, again, it's the same, just it doesn't have that strong bevel. Well, that stronger bevel. Yeah, it's new mesh. Or is it the real mesh? I'm confused right now. Is it the real mesh? Which one is the real one? I wonder. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is the one that we created. Never mind. And this is the one that I gave you. It's named... Oh, Lord, it's real mesh. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, it doesn't have the problems of the other mesh. And if you want to know what was the problem on the other mesh, it's quite simple. I hope this isn't confusing you. Oh, I should have put really different names, you know? Okay. This is the mesh that we just made. Why do they look so different besides the shape? Well, that is because the UVs on this mesh here are expanded. Remember, if we go back to modeling, while this selected, we go to UVs, we go to UV editor, you can see how they are smaller. Remember, this is the limit. They are smaller. We go display, display background, texture, and we put the texture here. This one, display here. So it's placed here. Yeah. So you can see how this is, we purposely shrunk it, right? So it covered more areas, but with the distortion, it made this issue, right? So we can just expand it, you know, and it becomes smaller. We expand it and we try to center it out. Oh, like that. Probably like that is fine. I see a little bit here, but if it causes problems, we can just check it, right? I just wanted to show you anyways. But see, now it shrunk and it looks better. That's fine. I just want to erase it though, I don't like it. So this is the one I gave you again, and sorry for the going on around. So as you see, we have a mesh. And if this mesh goes through another, it creates this intersection. We need to solve that in the material, among some other things that you're gonna see in a little while. So I take this small pause to ask you, okay, you are just starting on VFX, and I remember when I started too, I wondered, so why do we need a mesh here, and why not just a sprite? Why do we need a sprite here, and why not a mesh? Why is really a mesh useful? Because UVs sometimes are so complicated, or at least they were so much when I was started. I didn't really knew it. So there are some effects that have certain shape that obviously you cannot achieve with a sprite. Like imagine, I'm just gonna do this. Imagine that, okay, the most obvious one, and perhaps perhaps it's overkill, but imagine that you have a dragon, okay? This is a really cool dragon. This is the... Okay, it looks whatever else. But if you see it, this could be a sprite. This could be just a material, right? But if you turn it around, the material only... Well, the sprite only has a few ways of behaving. It can just face you, so it can rotate with you. And you're gonna realize, oh, the dragon is rotating with me. This feels weird. Or it can just be aligned on a plane and you start seeing it flatter and flatter, right? So if you want it to be more real, if you want it to be there or have depth, you need it to be a mesh, right? Imagine that, another example that probably it is better. Imagine that, let's say this is Goku here, all right? And he's doing his Kaioken. He has his whole aura here. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this, right? You could say this can easily be just a sprite with a material. This could easily be a sprite, right? So if you turn around Goku, you can still see this aura, around him, and it is sometimes a little bit hard to notice because there is so much noise, there is so much speed, right? And maybe you just don't notice that that it's just a sprite that is just rotating around and following you. I mean, if you are just a gamer, you are probably not gonna notice if that's a mesh or if that's a sprite. Only a VFX artist or someone that knows and focuses on that is gonna know. But sometimes the effect can be broken because, okay, imagine this is Goku. Okay, once again, Kaioken. This is an sprite and it is rotating too. Fine. But it's only going to work if you rotate around him in this direction, right? As soon as you start watching him from another angle, this sprite can no longer follow you in a proper way and the illusion is broken. Right? You kinda understand that? Of course that we can actually I think we can maybe make something more interesting here, just as a small pause of this here. So you don't need to do this. I just wanna go on our flower. Yeah, you shouldn't do this. I wanna take this all away. I wanna create a simple sprite burst, and this is a weird intermission, a weird pause from our effect. But I feel like if you're starting, this is really important. So I wanna put our effect in the map. This is our thing. I wanna make it infinite, so it is always there. And I wanna also stretch it. So random non-uniform, no, actually, random uniform. No, non-uniform, okay. So I wanna say this is 30 and I wanna say this is 200. Okay, nice. Oh, we already had our effect here. I can erase this. And I actually wanna place it here. So imagine this is the Kaioken. And I wanna do that maybe. This is the Kaioken, okay? So if you start rotating around him, it follows you and everything is fine. It looks cool, right? But as soon as you start going to other locations, you can see it breaks, right? Especially when you rotate the camera, it's really annoying. Of course that there are workarounds here. Like for example, you can just check the alignment. Sprite facing and alignment. We can say that this thing only aligns locally. So where is it now? Okay, this thing is only aligning here. Fine. But I want it to rotate with me. Hold on. Local. Is it gonna rotate with me like this? Nope. Like that? No, it's not listening. Okay, if so, we need the render to tell it, okay, the facing mode is custom. And the alignment is also custom. So now it's gonna pay attention to us. Where is it though? Okay, so we could, why do we have the burst here? I'm gonna erase it. And the flare, it's fine. Well, let me just keep checking stuff here till I get it right. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing. Okay, so we could have like workarounds or a lot of layers to it, so you never know that it's just a sprite, right? If it doesn't follow you, and if maybe around here this sprite fades away and you can never see this hard edge, then you can fool the player, right? There are plenty of ways to do it. But if it is a mesh and it has depth, then there is no issue, there is no problem, right? It just looks good. So sometimes you need to use a mesh, and sometimes you can just get away with using a sprite, right? So I hope that that made sense to you. I'm gonna erase this. Oh, well, of course, right? We have this mesh, and I can just say, okay, be like Goku, and yeah, we rotate around. I don't see anything wrong. We go on top. I don't see anything wrong either, right? So again, sometimes mesh, sometimes sprites and tricks, most of times sprites and tricks. Well, at least for me. So let's continue. There are some issues with this mesh, mainly when it intersects geometry. It's really harsh, and the solution is extremely easy. As always, here on the opacity, you can just put a depth fade, and that's that. No biggie. So we can just say depth fade, and we plug that in, and it should be okay. Right, so now we go here, and it starts to fade away, and we can just modify its parameters. For example, the fade distance, I just want it to be 20, maybe 100 is too much. Okay, maybe that's better. I mean, you can still see an intersection here, but it's softer. It depends on you, to be honest, right? Because if you put too much, the whole effect blurs. But it's up to you, once again. But I don't want our opacity to be just like that. I want a couple of more things. Like, for example, I want our flower, as it is dying, to disintegrate, not just to fade away. And right now it is not fading away because there is no particle color and particle alpha on the opacity. So it's just dying abruptly. Don't worry. But I want to do something inside our material so it kinda disintegrates and it looks cooler, right? I also want to be able to play with the intensity. Maybe when this flower appears, the effect is the colors are really strong and then they slowly fade away. All of those details make your effect feel a little bit more alive instead of just spawning. And so, like, this ball also could be brighter at the start and things like that, right? Any small detail that we can add that makes it feel more alive is a plus in our effect, okay? Any extra care. So how do we proceed? Because there are so many things. Okay, we can just go erase this. Well, no, not erase it, but just unplug it. And we need the alpha of this texture. If we open it up, you can see that there are plenty of channels here on top. There's the red, there's the green, the blue. Each one has their own composition. And there is also the alpha, right? With no color data, this is the best for the opacity. Okay, so you just need the alpha. And this alpha needs to be multiplied by the depth fade. Remember, not RGBA, it's just the alpha. Okay, so what do we do first? Oh, and also one another thing. I just want to press apply. So this mesh is fine like this. I want to hold Alt and left click and drag to create a copy, just to show. You don't need to do it. If I make it like this, you can see this hard edge here. It kinda, if you've watched other videos of mine, I always say it looks like PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, right? This hard edge is not so good. It breaks the immersion to me. We need to find a way inside the material to get rid of this, because it's not really enjoyable. You can also see it if you see the effect from this angle here. Okay, so we probably start on that. Or there are so many things that I don't know which one to do first. I mean, Okay, yeah, I told you. We can do that. We can also do the fading away when it's dying. Let's do that first. I already decided. Okay, let's do that first. So, how do we get that effect? That effect, we get it subtracting this texture by a number, or, well, and by another texture, right? And how do you do that? I'm gonna show you. So we have this result. We can preview it here. Well, I guess that we cannot preview anything because of this depth fade. But live update, everything's cool. Yeah, I guess that we can preview it because of the depth fade. It's fine. So this, I want to subtract it. Subtract, and then we join it. Remember to watch the material tutorial. I can show you that, and it's really good. I over explain some things, and I am subtracting this whole thing. This really doesn't count. I'm subtracting this texture by another part, and that way, I mean, the whitest part only remains, and as we continue adding values, they fade away. You're gonna check it right now. So I wanna leave this with just a constant. I just hold it 1 and left click for a constant, and I place this here. I put 1, and on B, I wanna bring a texture, probably this one, and I put it here. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and I place it here. So now what happens? I wanna put the subtract here on opacity. What is going on now? If we keep increasing this number, and actually we should make an instance so we can see it better, but let's just continue it like this for now. 1.5, you see? As the number keeps increasing, it starts fading away. If it's 0, it's complete. 0.1, 0.2, 3, 4, 5. Now imagine this in an animation, and it's gonna look really sweet, right? If you want, again, the exact explanation of what is happening, the material tutorial is amazing. Okay. But I don't quite want it like this. Maybe, okay, let's press 3. No, 2, 1, okay, 1. I want the fading to be like thinner. So we want to modify the UVs of this guy here. Again, remember? Let's just modify the UVs with the texture coordinate. And this can also be really useful when your texture, or well, when your mesh has 2 UVs. Here you can put, oh, it's in the first one, it's in the second one, right? It's really useful. Now 3. Now you see it's thinner. 1.1, 10. Yeah, it is way thinner. Probably just a 3. We can check it after as we keep going on. All right, now the question. We have this whole setup. Cool. We still need, I think, 2 more parts of it. But really, like, how can we make it communicate with our particle? We already have the particle color, which we know that can handle the color, but what node can handle the parameters inside? Maybe we want a different speed. Maybe we want a different coordinate, you know? So how can we do that? That's really easy. Just right click and type dynamic, and it's here, dynamic parameter. And this dynamic parameter needs to go instead of this one. So we just erase it and plug it here. Let's give it a name so we don't get confused. And this is the fade mask, or the disintegration mask. And by default, this is on 1. I just want to put it on 0. So we see our material just as it is, and it is perfect. Okay, I wanna see how this is working so far in our material, in our particle, so you can kinda know how it is going, and then we can continue. So we go on flower, and I wanna save, please save. I won't want this to crash. So, okay, it's just fading away because we don't have a particle color. It's okay though. So we want it to fade through time or to disintegrate through time, and that's particle update. Let's type dynamic material parameters. We click on it, and in here it already says fade mask. See, once you grasp the basics, it's just so easy, because if you want to modify through time, you need a curve, as we've been doing so much around here. So this fade mask, just type curve, float from curve, and all right, when it starts, I want it to be 0, so nothing happens. But as it's dying, I want it to be 3. And now you can see how it fades away. And that's really cool. Now that combined with the color fade should be really nice. Maybe it is fading too fast. I don't know. For me, maybe. But 2. Okay, this was just to show you how it is working so far. So we can just leave it there. All right, so our next and I think last problem is that this harsh, really harsh and really unpleasant line, we need to get rid of it. So there is a node named Fresnel, and I've touched that on the other tutorial too. If we just unplug this, both of these, and just plug it in, and we grab a circle, we can see how it is giving a halo around our mesh. There is another node called 1-. This node inverts whatever, if you put it after a node, it inverts it, right? So if we do this, and we continue tweaking things here, maybe 1.1, yeah, you can see how now it is strong on the middle and it's starting to fade out on the sides, which is, I think, what we want, right? We want this to be strong on the middle and then fade away here, which is okay. It is great. We want to erase this and plug this here and plug this here. So our next step is to multiply this subtraction by our Fresnel. And I wanna probably just spread this here, spread this here, and plug this here. You just want some space. Okay. Now, let's type Fresnel. And we grab the Fresnel. And as we talked before, we want an invert Fresnel. So 1-. And we plug it in. And that's not doing much, if at all, so we need to tweak it. This base refraction, we lower it. Okay. The exponent, we lower it to 4, 3. Yeah, 3 is a little bit better. And I think that we need to intensify the effects of our Fresnel by a lot. So how do we do that? We need to hold M, multiply, just add these two, and plug it in. And that is looking already way better. And we can continue doing that if we want. So how does it look now? That is way better. That's way softer. So for most of the meshes, you're gonna want to do something similar, maybe like adding a Fresnel so you don't see those hard edges, you know? And well, that is it for that, but we need to do still one more thing, one last thing to our material. If you check hard enough, I can see that on the edges, I'm seeing some collisions on the texture and the edge of the mesh. And we don't want that. I know that it is really subtle, maybe you cannot tell. But the thing is that, let me grab our mesh, real mesh. Okay, so this is our mesh, and this is the UVs. So right now on our UVs, this side is up and this side is down. So if we are adding any texture or any material, and this material is going a little bit towards here, like maybe overlapping, we're gonna be able to see it, right? Like we saw before, remember that we shrank the UVs? The way that you solve it is maybe adding a gradient here on the top and another on the bottom. It could be useful for us, or maybe it could not be useful for us. So in this case, I think it's gonna be useful, right? In this case, I think it's gonna work for us. So we need to do that. And to do that, you can do it with mats to create a mask. Hold on. There we go. So we could again, let's say, component mask. There are a couple of ways of doing it actually, but I think this is gonna be just fine. Okay, component mask. I wanna just grab this one, I think. Texture coordinate. We plug it in. No, it's not like this. It's a G. And as you can see already, there is a soft line here on top, which is gonna be useful. I wanna add it or maybe multiply it, I don't know. This and 1 minus. So it inverts it to this, and how does it look? No, it's actually a multiply, not this one. Okay, so that I think that kinda can work, although it's a little bit soft on the middle, but we should definitely try it. So when I hold M and multiply these two, and there we go. Now we have a line here on the bottom and on the top. And if we press apply and we check our mesh, well, definitely it is softer, but now there is no intersection on any part. Mostly, again, because we have this, right? I will say to just erase this, but we can improve it a little bit. So what if we add a power here? We can add a power here. We can also add a power on the bottom. Or actually, no, we just want a power on both. I mean on one here. And this power, yeah, probably 2 is okay. And we multiply it. I want to open it up by 10. Like that. Maybe even 20, you know? And it doesn't matter. Okay, that is looking nice. So again, now we have nothing harsh at the bottom because of our texture. And we don't have anything harsh on top. Well, not thanks for the texture, just thanks for the mask. And remember, I'm gonna save this just in case. At least Unreal doesn't crash as often anymore. We have this mesh, or well, this mesh. We go on modeling, don't do this. UVs, UV editor. And I wanna put our texture here. Where is our texture? Yeah, this one. Just to check it, right? So you can see, okay, yeah, that this top part is exactly our top part. And our bottom, it is exactly our bottom, right? Sometimes it's not going to be the same for your mesh. So sometimes you add this mask and it's covering different parts of your mesh. Just keep that in mind. It's working for us right now because of the composition of our UVs, or well, the position of our UVs. Because if our UVs were, I don't know, rotated, which looks kinda coolish, but has an awful seam, then that mask will not really work because that mask is here on top. So it will only cover this side, and this side is exactly this part. You can kind of understand what I'm telling you. I control C so nothing breaks, and I do not accept. I don't want any change done to that. I go back to selection. So I think this is good enough. Now we only have to put the particle color, and that's it for the material. I hope that this wasn't boring for you. So particle color, and I wanna multiply this. We probably don't need this 7 anymore. Remember that we just increased the intensity to show some things. We multiply the particle color with this result. We plug it in. We erase this. We can increase intensity in the system, remember, so no biggie. Although, so we just work with smaller numbers. Maybe it is better to increase it now, right? Because that 7 was looking actually nice. That's just personal preference, you know? Don't worry if you don't want to do it that way. Okay, nice. Now we need to do the same with all of these here on the bottom. So multiply here with the alpha and directly on opacity. And we apply it. And we are done with the material. It wasn't really complex, right? It's just distortion here. We combine it with this texture for a different color. You could also use color curves if you watch our other tutorial. And we added a way to control the dissolution, the dissolve. We added a small mask. We added a really cool Fresnel on it. And now it should be looking better than ever. This actually looks nice. Now we need to start tweaking it. Although, just let me watch our material one more time to just make sure that everything is fine. I think everything is cool. This is an exaggerated mesh. This is also looking nice. I don't see any harsh edges. Yep, this is great actually. This looks quite nice from this angle. Well done, guys. Okay, I just erase it. And let's go back and finally make our flower. Now it is looking way better, right? Before I was doubting myself, like, what is this? But with a better material, everything looks amazing. Okay. Before leaving this emitter and starting making more, because we can tweak more things as we go, right? We don't necessarily need to make everything perfect in here right now. We definitely should start working on the timings. So our the colors of our flare or of our flower, like how we are doing it right now, it looks like when it spawns, it is full of power, right? It's on its full expression. So if it's that way, it only makes sense that that it also has a softer, or not softer, but a stronger power of color as it fades away. Something like this. So right now, we just have it on 10 intensity. Oh wow, it's way more intense than the material. Let me check that here. That doesn't look bad, but we can erase this flare here and the mesh too. So what if this could even change color at the very start and then fade away, or just be really strong at the start and then fade away? We can do that. There are a couple of ways to do it. So remember that we cannot modify anything through time on particle spawn, which is okay. We should do it on update. We can just modify the alpha if we don't want to change the color. We could also just put a new color node and then modify everything through there. Now that you've learned it, you should be able to make the decision on your own, right? For now, I just wanna work with the scale color. So I wanna say that at 0, this is 0. At 0.1, this is like 3. Actually, 0.1 or even at 0.1, or well, actually 0.06, it is 3. But rapidly, at 0.1, this goes back to 1. Can you tell? We can go on the timeline and hold on, just my UI is a little bit too big, I think, and just make it softer. Press spacebar. This is way too small, but so it spawns and it is really bright and then it fades down. I think that's cool. We could even make it a little bit better than that, for sure. So I wanna go back to this, and I don't want it to go back to 1. What about 0.4? Now there is a clear difference, but it's way too harsh. So it's a 0.3. Yeah, it's like it expands and then it fades away. Expands at full color, then fades away. That's actually quite nice. Although there is something that I'm not quite enjoying. I need to put it on slow-mo one more time. And again, this could be faster if I already pre-done everything, but it's nice to share this insight together. Well, almost it's gonna be imperceptible at this stage, but perhaps it's way too strong right now. I think it's fine. So it expands and it is fine. Okay, you know, this is good. I wanna put it back on 1. So I will say for now, this flower looks really good, and we should start focusing now on our different parameters. Maybe parameters? I mean on our different emitters. Maybe I wanna add another flower that it is smaller here right on the middle. That will also be pretty cool, I will say. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we can scrap it. And you can also learn there how to set up different rotations too. So we have a flower 001, not quite 007. I want to make it definitely smaller. So I want to divide this by 3, divide this by 3, and divide this by 3. So it is definitely smaller. And it's here in the middle too. Okay, now we just want to put different rotations and different scales, because right now it is just doing exactly the same thing as our old flower, although this looks really nice. It gives it like a different cool layer. Okay, so first we type on spawn on the plus, and we tap initial, as I showed you before, initial mesh orientation. And not that, we put known rotation. Let's just put it 0.2. If you want a range, remember that you can do a random, but I don't really want range. I just want it to be different. And this is different enough. Yeah, this is different enough. And I also want it to have different depth. So we can go on initialize particle, and in here, we could say just 1.3. This probably looks fine. Let's check it on the map. Oh, and we should also find a way to be able to activate our effect at our command through blueprints. We can probably do that later on. Yeah, we can probably do that a little bit later on. Okay, this looks good. I don't particularly enjoy the super high color at the start of the middle. So at the start of the middle, I mean, at the start of the middle flower. So I go back to scale color, and I say, I mean, 0, 0 at 0.6. It's just 1. Even it could be even softer, you know. So initialize particle, I could say this is 444. So it is way softer. And remember, once again, that all that you're setting up here could be destroyed by the post-process. So you should really check out what kind of post-process you want to use for your effects or for your map. Okay, I think this looks pretty cool. I actually want it to remain tall. I don't want our middle flower to be flat. So mesh size, the C, just want it to remain at 0.6. Oh, sorry, it has one more point here. We just erase it. So how is it that looking? Okay, I really enjoy this. I want to see how it looks on the map too. So spacebar. And I think that we can erase this now. We are done with the material anyway. Yep. I enjoy this a lot. It could even probably leave a little bit more so we can show off that cool material. That's up to you. Okay, so let's continue. Now, well, we could add many things. We could add probably sparks. Yeah, I mean, sparks will be the most fun thing, right? Sparks are always really fun. So we should start doing that. Well, for the sparks, I mean, we could spread them apart once the ball hits and everything, and yeah, we will definitely make that. But I'm realizing that our falling ball is like a little bit lonely. It looks like it doesn't have much detail. What if we add some sparks to it to make it a little bit more to make it have a little bit more detail, you know? And the more and more I'm thinking that we should make our flower last more time to make it more pretty. But yeah, later on, once we have everything done. So let's rename this inner flower. And we here have our small ball. I wanna create a new emitter, simple sprite burst. And okay, so let me think. Let's spawn a lot of them. Well, not really a lot. No, actually, let's not. Let's just spawn one and isolate. Yeah, just spawn one, because we are going to inherit the properties of this small ball. So we don't really need to spawn anything here. I'll show you. So, okay, just to test the shape of our ball, just one. Let's make it small and random. So it could be like 0.3, it could be 0.7, like really small. Remember, we do not want to clutter our effect with things. So sometimes making really small small sparks can give some nice details. If you've seen Final Fantasy 16 or games like that, like they use a lot of really small particles too. Really minimalist things. Well, of course, until Ifrit just launches a fire and burns everything. Okay, that's a huge particle and it looks amazing. But most of the other ones are small ones. Okay, anyways. We need to add different life. Random. Like maybe some life 0.3, maybe some life 1. We cannot see anything though. That's kind of not cool. So 100. And they are on the same position, of course. Okay, we need to just to be able to debug. I wanna put a shape here, shape location. A sphere is fine. So these are the sparks, and the size of our small ball, I think it's fine. This looks nice. Okay, so exactly how can we make these sparks follow our ball? Well, there are a couple of ways. One thing that can come to mind is, okay, we just make this shape smaller and we make it have some velocity and just follow, well, try to follow the motion of the ball, right? And kind of like emulate like it's really following it. We could do that and it could be nice, but it wouldn't show you anything. It wouldn't show you new models. And of course, for more complex behaviors, it will be a little bit hard to emulate it. So what do? It's fairly easy. Here on the Emitter update, we need to create another type of spawn. And we have a video on this too if you want to know more. So just type spawn. And this is spawn particles from Other Emitter. We click on it. We do not need our spawn burst instantaneous anymore. We can just erase it. If you click on this, it's gonna say this thing has issues. Whenever you see that a thing has issues, you just press fix issue. The issue is that in order for this to work, you need actually 2. Right? And it just created another. Fine. So now this is asking us, what is the emitter name from where you want to copy the attributes? Okay, we want to copy them from the small ball. Small ball, there you go. Okay, so is anything showing? You can see that now some sparks are following, right? Like a small trail. That's pretty cool, right? So what this emitter is taking from this one is, for example, the location. It is not taking the speed, it's just taking the location and just updating it, right? Okay, cool. In here it says spawn rate. It is spawning 10. And the max, okay, it has a cap, all good. You can modify some things. You can try a lot of things if you want to. That's great. But let's move to the other emitter, well, to the other module that was just created. Okay, you can filter some particles, all good. And in here, you can choose to inherit the velocity of this one. Oh, sorry. You can choose to inherit the velocity, the color, the lifetime. There are many times that you can take to make more complex things. All right. in this case, we really do not want to take any of these. We just want the position. So we can just say output only. And it is... Oh, is it creating them? I wanna see that. Okay, so what I think that is going on is that our sphere location is too big now. So just put 1. Is it following it or no? No, they are just spawning on the middle. So we do not want output only. We want to say disabled, and let's see what happens. So this is the thing. If you put disable, as you can know, it is not taking this attribute from this particle. So basically right now it is taking nothing. And we do want the position. Okay, this is nice. But you may ask now, but we have our shape sphere. Why is it not working? Because even if we put 200, we still see it on a small line. That looks boring, right? And well, that is because the order of these modules. So right now we are setting up a location for us, and then we are saying no, we are gonna spawn exactly where this emitter is spawning. So we need to change it here. And now you can see it is still following the motion, but now it's huge. Let's say 5. And there you go. Now that is looking way better. Albeit it's looking very small, right? And we do not want it to be so small. So we can say, okay, just spawn 50. So spawn more particles. That's looking very nice, very cute. Okay, and the cap is fine. The shape, I think the shape is just fine too. Let's change the color here and initialize. Yeah, we're not taking the color here, so it's fine. We can just say apply to attribute, and they have the same color. But what if we make it a little bit brighter here on the alpha scale? 5 maybe? Are they getting brighter? I cannot tell. I wanna save before anything crashes, to be honest. There you go. Alpha scale, 1K. Yeah, so I don't think that they are 0. Oh, so they are actually. Well, we could make it bigger. Well, we could make them bigger. We could change the color a little bit. Or we could do something a little bit more cooler, which will be, remember how we did with the scale by velocity? Just click on update. And scale sprite size by speed. I typed it all wrong, but it still gave me my result. I'm so thankful. And you remember how this works? Well, first of all, you can change any that you want here, but nothing is gonna show because you need to change. Oh, but it's on automatic, so maybe in automatic works. Let's see, because it didn't used to be that way. So let me see, the minimum factor, I wanna put 10. Yep. And the minimum size, I wanna put 0.2. And I'm just putting the minimum because we don't really have speed. So they cannot change with speed, you know? And yeah, actually we are doing that wrong. We should not be doing this. Using it like that will be like using a scale sprite or something like that. But at the same time, if you think about it, we don't really need speed because we are just leaving trails here. So I would say, in this case, it is fine to do it. Just know that if you're doing sprite size by speed, you do need speed, right? Because otherwise they cannot scale through time. But again, we do not want to put speed here. We just want like a small and cute trail. So, okay, let's say 1.3, let's say 0.6 or 0.7. What? 0.9, what? 0.7 and 3? That's looking a little bit better. 6. 5. Oh, hold on. This is actually looking very nice. I wanna get closer to it. This is looking cool. I enjoy it. But well, one more thing. I want them to kinda dissipate to this side because right now they're just staying there. I want at least some bit of movement. And also, what if they live a little bit longer so we leave a trail of something that has happened? Let's try 3 and 2. That could be cool. Now let's use a force here. And it's curl noise force, as always. That's way too much. What about 3? Is it too wonky? I don't particularly enjoy it. Okay, I see that our issue, or well, what doesn't look good is how soft, well, here they move quite cool, but we're not leaving any trail. And here they look, what is this? So what if we modify through time? Curve. And I do not want a straight line because, for example, imagine, okay, when they start 0, so they remain there. But when they die, I want to say 100. Right? I want to put like a middle ground here and say 0. So they start moving starting point 5. You kinda get it? Yeah. I want to put a curve here. Even so, I don't particularly enjoy how they look. Let's see it on the viewport. That looks awful. That looks half-baked. Not good at all. What if it's 200? Nope. This curl noise perhaps wasn't the best idea. What if we add a different force then? What if we add, instead of the curve for some kind of vortex, so they move in a circle? Yeah, actually that looks better. But not so much. Let's say 100? Yeah, I think this is it. That's way cooler. Okay, I enjoy it. Goodbye, curl noise. Welcome, vortex force. So now you know how to inherit some values from other particles. Again, we could have done it in a different way, but this way shows you a new emitter, right? And the other way, it's like a kind of cheeky way. So we stop with the isolation. All right, it falls. It's looking nice. Now, what else could we add? Now that we've added sparks for the small ball, what if we add sparks for the explosion? So let's say ball sparks. Cool. Now let's add sparks for our flower. So right click, edit. The good old sprite burst. I know that we could make it faster with other templates, but this one helps us understand things better, right? So flower spark. All right. How do we do the sparks for the explosion? And I already see that there are a couple of other things that we need to do with explosion. But let's do the sparks. It should be really fun to do, to be honest. So, all right, let me think. What about some kind of flowery motion for some kind of flowery motion for the sparks, and with some chord noise. Maybe that could be really cool. So I wanna uncheck both of these so they don't get in the way. And we have the flower spark. Okay. So we do not have a texture or a special material for something that emulate petals for flower. But we're gonna just work with normal sprites, and with the behavior it's gonna be soft and kinda emulate something that can float, that is and that is incredibly lightweight. Like a spark, right? But you kinda get what I mean. It's just a magical spark. Okay. So first, what do? We're going to be spawning a lot of sparks. And if you spawn a lot of sparks, it is recommended that you're not using CPU. You should be using GPU, right? Because everything that you do with CPU goes on the game thread, and the game thread is already quite busy as it is. All right, so whatever you do on CPU, it must be lightweight, let's say, and if you have a chance to do it as a GPU, you should do it, definitely. Okay? All right. So, for example, these sparks everywhere, those are GPU. And they ask you, well, it says it's using dynamic bounds, whatever. Okay, we can just leave it on there. We can just say unfixed. And this bounds is where the particle is going to be seen. If you're outside the bounds, you cannot see it. Just for this demonstration, we can just say it's 1K. You can see it unless you're extremely far away, and then you can't. But for now, you know, this is just fine. Okay, let's just give it a shape. So shape, location, just on the spawn. Let's make it a ring. That probably could be interesting. And the spawn is gonna be 900. Okay, you know, it's a huge ring. And of course, our lifetime and our size is even, so that's why it looks like that. And could be cool if you use some kind of velocity, but we're not going to be doing that, right? So let's say random. I want these particles to live for a long time, right? And wait, why isn't our petal showing? If we disable this, what happened? That's pretty weird. Something happened with our effect, right? Oh, I'm so silly. So nothing is happening because these both have a trigger from the small ball. So if there is no small ball, there is no flower. Okay, good to know for both of us. So let's continue with the flower spark. Now they die a little bit different, but I want them to live for so long, so they remain on the map. So what about 6 and 5? Really long lifetime. And I want it to be really small, like a small detail. So what about a random uniform? And I want to say 0.2 and 0.6. Good old ring. We can take care of the color probably later. Okay, so the shape location. For now, I will say this is just fine. I don't know really. I won't know until I give it some kind of force. But thing is, if this is how they are going to be spawning, then you're going to be seeing some patterns because they are so close from each other. So let's try to make the ring, yeah, something like that, right? Something more spread like this. This could be, well, no, could be no. This is gonna be way better. Okay, sure. Now let me think. There are many ways that we can go on, but I'm not sure. Let's just say velocity here. And it's gonna be, of course, from point. 25 is fine. And I think we need to modify the color right now, otherwise we can't really see it much. So it's just the initial color. I don't want to color it after, at least for now. That's my phrase, isn't it? Along with okay. I should change that. I don't like that. I want the particles to have two colors, not just blue or purple. So remember we did that. Well, luckily now Niagara has these options. Before you only needed to do it through here. So we want a random range, and one of them just purple, and I want the intensity to be 4. Careful that sometimes it bugs and it goes and it snaps back to 1, and this is not emissive. So to solve it, I just press 4 here and then I move it. Okay. And the second one, well, what if it's blue? And also blue like that. I don't want them to be incredibly similar though. Although they kinda are, but they aren't at the same time. That's good. Okay, we don't want any kind of position offset. We do want a change in velocity though, because right now the velocity is 25 for everyone, so they still form a ring, right? And we don't want that. We want, again, to randomize it, random range. And let's say it's 60. So some go away and some stay, and that's cool, because once we add some kind of vector velocity, well, some kind of curl noise force, it's gonna add a very cool shape. So let's go. Curl noise. I wrote it wrong, but it's still here. Cool. 100. Okay, that's nice. What about we make it more frequent? I don't like how it forms a ring at the start. I really do not enjoy that at all. So we need to change that, but I feel like there are a couple of things that we need to do before. But anyways, we need to pan the noise field. If we pan the noise field, it's gonna create more interesting shapes. Like for example, if we put 90 here. Yeah, I think that's cool enough. Okay, big medium. Now I want them to stop. Right now they just fly and it's like goodbye, right? They just left. So we put a track. Remember that we used it before? And I want to stop them through time, because right now they just stop as soon as they are born, right? Or well, they stop every time more. So we just put a curve here, as we've been learning. And I want to say that at start, there is nothing here. But when it dies, I want it to be a 10. That gives it some sort of magical look, doesn't it? That's cool. But perhaps it happens too soon. Perhaps I want it to be like, I create another point. 0.1, this is still 0. Okay. Now I'm thinking we could also scale the sprite size, and we could also scale it by speed. Like both could be potentially really fun. So we should do it. And also that ring shape, again, I'm not enjoying it too much, so we may change that so it doesn't look so even at the start. Although these sparks are going to be beneath our mesh, so we may not even notice it. We may not even need to modify it. So we shall see. We shall see. Okay, So scale mesh. Oh, sorry, scale sprite size, because this is a sprite. Scale sprite size. We open it up, and I want to say that at 1 they are 2, so they actually get bigger. Yeah, like they get bigger and they stay there and they look quite cool. But I don't want them to spawn from 0. Do they spawn from 1? I feel like yes, because we are not gonna be seeing them anyway. At the start, at least. So how does this look with everything? Well, it certainly spawns too soon. So we could also link these sparks to the event of the small ball, and we will, because otherwise we need to put them on a delay and kind of be cheeky, and I don't like that. I mean, yeah, sure, we can just say loop delay. Just wait 1 second. Wait 2 seconds. 1.3. Oh, sorry, 1.3. Yeah, that seems to do the trick, but that's not the way that you should be doing things. So let's add an event handler here, and properties. Oh, event handlers are not supported on GPU. Okay, so maybe on this time we do need to use the delay. This is good to know. I didn't remember this. So well, let's do a delay for this, because I mean, we could also use a GPU because 900 isn't too many, but still it is a good habit to have them on GPU. So at the end, this is gonna be up to you. Maybe on some cases you do need to do this. So for now, oh sorry, emitter state, loop delay, was it 1.3? Yeah, it is 1.3. Or is it 1? No, 1.4. Yep. Feels like the ring is too small. I mean, too big. Feels like they are too big, and probably the sparks are also too small. I mean, I want them to be bigger over time. Yeah, let's see. I would like this shape to be just something small, like 7. And that's way better. And let's make the mesh spawn a little bit further down the bottom. I would like that. So our small ball, make it live just a little bit longer. That's way better now. Yeah, and you can actually see that this flower spark is working way better now. It's no longer expanding and then forming. It just forms almost instantly. That's very nice. So core noise, we could even pump it up a little bit. And then what if they remain for long? Although I think this is very nice. Let's make them be slightly bigger as time goes by. Like 4 maybe? That is very pretty. I thoroughly enjoy this. So I think that we are done with this, quite honestly. What if we also modify the sprite size by speed, so it is smaller, so it has a different shape, or so it goes around different. We could add again a size by speed, but you know, this square, I mean, these circle sparks are fine. I'm doubting too much. All right, so our next step is that I'm thinking, okay, there is this ball falling, it explodes, there are sparks, everything is really pretty, but I feel like here on the bottom we lack a little bit of power. It feels like this would bring in some kind of light or something like that, right? So let's do that. I would like to go here on the flower on the bottom, right click, emitter, simple sprite burst. And we don't need to do much here. This should be really simple. We just want to change, we want to isolate it and change the alignment. Align. I want to align it to the floor. So we do local and here 0 and here 1. And it's aligned to the floor. Perfect. Now I would like to say this particle should also be spawned when the ball hits the floor. So let's make another event. Event handler. And then here def. Receive death event. Okay. We erase the burst instantaneous. Just as we did before, right? Oh, I'm sorry. What we did before was the let me make this smaller, the particle inheritance, right? It's this one. We do not want to do that. We want to work with events. So we do need a spawn here. I'm just gonna Control C. There we go. We need to link it now. So on the properties, we need to say this comes from the small ball death event. Let's restart it. We see it appearing. Max events 1, number of spawns 1. It is actually not listening. Receive death event. It's fine. So what has changed? Oh, actually, I was right. We do need to get rid of this spawn burst, because the spawn is being handled by this, right? My bad. Okay, good. Now let's animate this a little bit so it kind of like expands. Scale sprite size. And it needs to follow the same strength of this mesh. So it probably spawns at size 0.1, but at time 0.1 too, it could be 3. Something like that. Or maybe 2. I enjoy this. Let's change the color now. Let's make it a little bit more emissive. Remember, 3. Let's change the color. Something like that. But, you know, the intention is good, but this color gradient is just way too strong. I don't enjoy that. So we have two options. We can either modify the material, or we can even say, okay, this is not emissive. This is just something like this. Yeah, okay, so it is gentle, you see? It is gentle, it looks nice. And is it me or does it fade to white? Oh no, never mind, it was just me. Let's make it bigger. 4. Okay, that's too much. 3. All right, I'll have to settle for 2.3. Okay, so we can definitely see this is working smoother. This is looking better. And quite honestly, let's try and look at it from the side. If we look at it from the side, we see maybe the sparks happen a little bit too late. Should happen a little bit earlier. What else? I feel like this mesh stays too big on the z-axis for too long. Should be faster. And I also kinda don't like the behavior of these sparks. Maybe a little bit more speed on it. Going back to the sparks, flower spark, velocity, let's just say 120. That just spreads them further, right? Okay, 75. And they need to happen faster. So 1. Too soon. 1.2. 1.3. All right. This is looking a little bit better. Let's see how it looks on the map. Oh, and it is not here, so I'm gonna put it back again. I focus on it. All right. As we can see, it is too low, so I put it a little bit like that. Let's try it. Now they spawned too early. I guess that the time was perfect. Okay, the time is perfect. Let's just change it then. So the flower sparks. All right, it needs to be 1.4, just as it was again. And maybe then the curl noise force just increases to 200. That looks cooler. Okay, I can take that. That looks cooler for sure. For sure. And I'm thinking now on what else we can add besides making this last longer. I kinda already like how this looks and how it fades away. So I'm just gonna copy both of them. Oh, sorry. I'm copying both of them here, and I'm gonna disable both. They're just a backup, just in case. Or actually, I should do the inverse, right? The originals just disable and work on the both that are here enabled. And let's make them both last longer. So straight up 5 and straight up 5. This is prettier and makes more sense, but now you can see that the timings we created on our scale mesh size are now broken because now they live longer. Now we need to recheck the timings of both of them, right? Again, to my liking, it stays for too long with the C axis being too big. So I'm changing that. On only the C, we're just testing anyway, right? So we have some time to check things out. So on 3, okay, maybe at point 3, it is still, or well, it is no longer that, and it's 0.1. Let's see. That looks better. I prefer that one. And I'm gonna make it a curve. I forgot about that. So it's curved now. That looks way smoother. I really enjoy this. So we do the same for the other one, right? Same thing. Like, what did we do here? We did 0.3, 0.25, or just 0.1, sure. And here too. Hold on. Yeah. In here, same thing. 0.3 and 0.25. This looks very nice, and I think I'm happy enough with how this has turned out. Okay, never mind. I am not happy. This bottom sprite, it's just way too big. So we're just gonna have to keep doing these small improvements and see what's going on. So sprite size, it grows too fast, just 1.5. Just make it grow small. No, it grows still too fast. So it is not 0.1. Just make it 0.3 and 1.2. And make it live for at least 4 seconds. We need it to be bigger. Let's just add another point and say 1 and 2. Okay, now. Okay, I enjoy that. All right. Oh, I do not want to save this just in case though. Let's continue testing it. All right, so if I can't come up with anything, oh, there is something important still. Let's check at that. It feels like I would like to add another layer. One last one, because if we check at this through a timeline and say that, okay, this is playback 0.5. If we wait for it, and let's repeat it once more time. You see how the very first thing that spawns is the sparks? Although it doesn't look bad. I mean, it crashes, boop, and then it spawns. That's not bad. But maybe I would like the sparks to also like fly up too. It's just like water, right? You throw something in the water and something splashes up, right? Something sort of like that. So just a minor thing, to be honest. We copy these sprites just to make it more organic, right? For example, let's say we isolate this one. Isolate it. We also want to isolate the small ball and the ball sparks. Isolate. So with these three ones isolated. Oh, we didn't want to duplicate this one. Oh well. Let's just work with this. So we see it comes here. And some sparks should fly up instantly, right? So I want to erase this. This event handler is fine, actually. Let's make sparks that are really small. So 0.2, 0.6. Let's have a lot of sparks. Spawn number, like 20. All right, and velocity. We can get away with linear. I think it's fine, but we need a shape. It can be circular too, but really small. We don't need to test it on slow-mo anymore. This is annoying me. Okay, so it falls. And I only see one spark flying up. Only one. So receive that event. Acceleration, ribbon, coordinate space. This should all be okay. Yeah, we should also put a location. So if we raise this here and we put a shape location around here, let's see what happens. Yeah, we can modify it too, which is pretty cool. It's a little bit hard to see, right? Once again. Okay, they need to be, I think, bigger. So 2 and 1. Something like that, sure. But the velocity needs to be uniform, because right now they're all flying at 50. And that's not cool. Random, 0 and 50, which is, I think, fine. Something like that, sure. But let's make it way faster, like 300. Something like that. And then an inevitable drag. So let's see. Like that, it seems nice. I mean, it's a fine detail, right? But it's one that you will be able to appreciate. But the velocity needs also to be spread out. So maybe 200 and 200. And also minus 200 and minus 200. Something like that. Maybe. Probably 200 is too much. And we settle down for 50-50, minus 50, and minus 50. How is that looking? Yeah. I like that. Let's add now some acceleration so they accelerate downwards, and that's it. To make it more organic, right? So acceleration force, and they just go down. Minus 100. Something like that. So now, how is everything looking all together? You can actually tell the particles that are spawning. Let's just add a few more. I just don't want to add so much because this is CPU, but just 100. Something like that. And let's make them different. I swear this is the last thing. So size by speed. Let's make them look nicer. Right now they're just rounded and just flying dumbly. I don't like that. So sprite renderer, alignment, velocity, and facing mode, custom facing mode. And let's say that this is what? 0.2? No, this is actually 5. We're going overboard. Really overboard. 0.3 or 0.4. Something like that, maybe? They feel like they are too slow, don't they? They do. They do. And they are leaving too much. How can I tell? Well, you see the motion. It falls, this mesh gets created with so much force. And then nothing. Right? And also one thing I've noticed, I'm gonna tell you in a little bit. Okay, so first of all, not so big, 3. That's fine, and they should not live for so long. 2. Oh, and random, right? 1 and 2. To finish, we just want to do 2 more things. And well, I hope that you can make this this purple sprite bigger because it kind of bothers me. But so 2 last things. And I know that I'm bad saying when something is last, but we need to be able to expose these parameters to be shown in a blueprint, right? So you can modify them in a game. Imagine that you want to modify the color through blueprints, right? So it can be a gameplay effect. Okay, and the other one is how to trigger our effect with a button on the map so we don't have to press spacebar and look at it. It's so noobish. We should never do that, but I wanted to highlight the importance on that. Okay, because for the longest time I refused to learn blueprints and just did it that way, and it was really painful. But you wanted to learn Niagara first, so we're on Niagara. Anyways, imagine that we have this velocity and we want to expose the minimum and the maximum to our blueprints. What do? So imagine, again, we want to change the minimum. We go on the arrow and you can click on make and you can click on read from user parameter. And there you cannot modify it anymore. But it appears here on the left side on user parameters, and it also appears in here on the system user parameters. It leads you here. If you're here, just parameters. Oh, like that. Well, yeah, it leads you here, right? These are the global parameters of your whole system. I know that we didn't touch on this one, but it's the whole system properties of the whole thing, right? Something that all of the emitters share in the case that you choose to do it, right? Because you can also choose not to do it. Like for example, where do we put it? Here on the emitter update. If we put self, it depends on the emitter. If we put system, it refers to this one here, right? So it depends on you. It is cheaper if they're all linked to the system. So what was I saying? Oh, okay, yeah. So same thing, right? Click on the arrow, make, and read from user parameter. And it's gonna be named maximum velocity. And there you go. And that's how you expose them on the blueprints, because it's gonna, well, it is already a parameter, right? Another thing that I didn't show you, and can I show you now? Okay, I think I can break this effect a little bit now that, oh no, I'm just gonna copy it. Okay, I just copied it. I wanna make this an infinite spawn. Okay, so it spawns. Oh, and I wanna take this out, and I wanna spawn burst of 200. So it appears all the time, right? I wanna make it loop even faster, so 0.4 at all the time. Nice, and we have it here. I wanna move it. You can see that the sparks, well, do not move, right? What moves is the emitter, and then when it spawns, it takes the location. And that's probably what we want. Because if we have a particle that is not spawning as a burst, but it is spawning as a rate, like a rate of 100, like that, and we move it, it moves like you would expect, right? That's cool. But sometimes you do not want it to move like that. Imagine that maybe you have sparks on the hand of a player and that player runs, and you do not want the sparks to trail him because maybe the amulet has a gravity, or maybe, you know, it looks bad and the effect gets ruined, so you just want the particles to spin around his hand. Well, what you do is this. You go on emitter state, oh sorry, on the properties, and you put local space. That way, when you move it, it is completely static, right? That's something that may come in handy. Another thing that I didn't mention and that now I forgot, I saw it around here. Oh yeah, of course. We did show the spawn rate. This is also the spawn per unit. This spawns per unit, how do you say it, spent, moved. So if you move it around, it starts spawning, but only when it moves, and depending on the rate that you put it, because if you put the rate to be too low, like 0 or 0.1, the minimum movement spawns incredibly a lot of particles, and that could cause way too many troubles. So that is that, and I know that there are also a lot of modules that I didn't touch, but quite honestly, you should check them out because they're quite simple and they're quite fun to check. And I already showed you the most vital ones that you can use for your effects, right? So last thing, how do I activate my effects? I'm just gonna put it. No, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, I'm not gonna go with my usual self. I'm gonna create a blueprint, file, enter, right click, blueprint class, select actor, name it VP flare, maybe? I can't, oh, it was flower, okay. So we open it up and we want to bring in our effect inside here, like that. Okay, that's all pretty cool. We need to go on the event graph. So the first thing that we need to do is to give us a way to press a keyboard, well, a key, so our effect spawns, right? So we can test it. So here on event play, just put enable input. Oh Lord, I cannot type. Enable input. There we go. And in here we need to get our player controller. So get player controller. There we go. Now what we need to do is find a key that we want to use. Well, I just want to type keyboard and choose one. And since we have activated, since we have put our flower in here, it's gonna read it automatically if we do activate. Activate NS flower. Great. Now we need to tag reset. So if we press it and it's on motion, it can just spawn again, right? Don't forget to compile, otherwise it doesn't work. And you should drag your effect into the map. We press play. Oh, it's a little bit too high, so okay, press play. And if we press 1, it spawns. And we can debug it. And it spawns, and it spawns. And I can crash my computer like that. But, so yeah, that's it. I hope that you learned a lot and that it encouraged you to make your own stuff. Thank you for watching, and if you find it enjoying or if you have some advice, please let me know. Maybe I can teach better, or maybe it was amazing and you loved it and you want more. I'm gonna do way more. So thank you for watching once again, and I'll be seeing you really soon. Don't forget to join our Discord. You can ask me anything there.